Talking with the Experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and today my guest is Tony Loyd. And Tony is a former Fortune 500 executive with companies such as John Deere, Medtronic and Buffalo Wild Wings. Today he is a best-selling author, keynote speaker, business coach and a podcast coach. Tony helps purpose-driven business leaders to thrive in life so that they can connect with others and contribute to the world. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Rose.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So tell me a little bit about your business culture shift companies.
Right. So I personally, I'm basically an author, speaker, and coach. So we have a overall holding company for all the kinds of things that we do. We also produce podcasts. We do web development. But I think the coaching part is kind of the core bit of it. So we help purpose-driven business leaders to thrive in life, connect with others, and contribute more. But the tricky bit is some people don't see themselves as business leaders, right? That's too high of a bar. Some business leaders don't necessarily understand what their purpose is. So we spend a lot of time really helping people to coach through these things, help them to gain the clarity that they need. And, Rose, you already know that when you have clarity, it gives you confidence, right? And
Absolutely.
then confidence builds courage, and then courage allows you to be a change maker. So that's kind of what we mainly focus on. I find that people come with two basic problems. I'm not clear, right? Or I want to speed up, one or the other. And so we help them to do both of those.
Yeah, I had someone on recently when we discussed leadership versus management in length. Just because you're a manager doesn't necessarily make you a leader.
No.
And we talked about what are the good qualities of a leader, and perhaps you could answer that question for me.
Sure. One of the things I often think about is if you believe you're a leader and you look behind you and no one is following, you're simply out for a nice walk, right? And so, there's some core skills of every leader. And so there is something about a leader that fits a moment, right? So if you think about the leadership style between the desert fox, or you think about the leadership style of Patton, and then you think about the leadership style of Martin Luther King Jr., or you think about the leadership style of Gandhi. Those are such different styles. So there is no one right way to do it. It is, am I fitting the moment, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I find is leadership is one of those things that you cannot assign yourself, right? That it is one of those things that you have to be recognized for. If I run around telling everybody I'm a leader, there's a really good chance I'm probably not.
Yeah.
Right? So, leaders have great communication skills. That's almost always present. They have good coaching skills, right? They facilitate the growth of others. Leaders have, cross-cultural communication. They have all these different core skills. But in the end, the true definition to me of leadership is achieving results through others. So whatever that is that's within you that helps you to achieve results through others, that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a leader is allowing others to shine, and you're just there to, be the sounding board rather than making, like if someone comes to you with a problem, you're not necessarily there to solve the problem. You're just there to help them solve the problem. So
Yeah.
This is what we talked about, the Toyota method, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And it's a great philosophy, I think, and how they train their leaders,
Yeah.
and having good manners and all that sort of thing, and not being rude, and and getting on the floor to the coalface to talk to your workers. It's really important. Right. That's what I believe, anyway.
Right. that whole thing you just said, good manners. If you think about people who are claiming to be leaders in the world right now, and I wonder how many of them would just fit that one criteria, right? That, do they show, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control? Do they even show those things? And I would say a lot of us would fall down short on those kinds of, criteria.
Absolutely. Yeah, we won't go into that area, but I understand fully. So I've lost my question now.
Sorry about that.
Leadership. That's what we were talking about. So what do you think? I know when I was doing a diploma of human resources management some years ago, leadership was compartmentalized into like 5 types of leaders, from the micromanager to the maxi manager. What
Right.
does that ethos still hold, or it has things changed since 1990?
One of the things I have noticed is that if you read books on leadership, something like 85% of all books on leadership are written by white men. And so one of the things that we're realizing in the world is that that's not always the right way to lead, right? That there are other ways to lead. And so, there's a guy recently a few years ago, he wrote a book and it's called Shakti, Shakti, Shakti Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Sijotha, I think is his name. Anyway, he's of Indian descent. He talks about the Shakti goddess and how there is masculine and there is feminine within all of us. And
Yeah.
for many, many years, we have allowed masculine energy to dominate our leadership positions, our leadership styles,
Yeah.
and it has gone off balance. And so he was encouraging people to just come back to center, to allow that sort of feminine energy to come in and to inform your leadership. And I think that was a brilliant, brilliant find on his part. So yeah, there are many models because people still have to write books, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to repackage the same truths again and again. And then, so yeah, I think there probably is some truth to the fact that there are, different styles of leadership. But again, I think the most effective style is the style that works in the moment.
Yeah. And you keep coming back to that, and I think that's quite right, because sometimes you do have to be one way at a particular time and a different way at another time. You can't just be the same all the time.
Right. There is a concept called situational leadership, and that's exactly what that is about.
Yeah. And so what's your view on the importance of self-care for business owners?
Well, I have a fairly strong opinion about that. I think that you can't pour from an empty vessel, right?
Yeah.
That especially if you think about right now, right? There is so much. There's COVID-19. There's social injustice. There's political unrest. There's economic downturn. There's environmental collapse. There are all these things that are happening. And these things are impacting the world, with our health and safety, our employment, our housing, our social connections, our recreation, our transportation, our education. It's like everything is disrupted right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that practicing self-care is critical now and always, because, as I said, you can't pour from an empty vessel. But I think that we sometimes confuse self-pampering, right, with self-care.
Yeah.
And that sometimes we try to escape. Sometimes, we'll sit on the sofa and flip through Facebook and eat little bonbons and pretend that, the world has gone away.
Yeah.
And there is a place for that, right? There is a time when we just need to unplug. But self-care goes beyond that. If you think about, how am I doing in my physical health, my mental health, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, even? How am I doing in my relationships, right? With my family, with my parents, children, siblings? How am I doing in my community, in those relationships, in my, my spousal relationships? How am I doing, in my community relationships? And then what am I contributing to the world? How am I doing financially? How am I doing vocationally? How am I doing avocationally? Even my hobbies and my causes that I care about. And so it's important that we, first of all, that we understand how we're doing. Right.
Yeah.
So I use a self-assessment. I do it at the beginning of every year. Sometimes I'll do it mid-year just to check in. And I just basically measure myself on a scale of 1 to 10. How am I doing in like these 10 different areas? And then I make a plan. How am I going to close that gap between, if I want to be a 10 and I'm a 3, maybe I can't get to a 10 in every area, but can I get up to a 6 or a 7?
Yeah.
And then make a plan for that. So, I think that self-care is so critical for leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to, I think, and I agree with you on that point that you need to check in on how you are doing with people outside of yourself or things outside of yourself, activities outside of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's important too, rather than, just going out and pampering yourself. So I think people confuse pampering with self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, Rose, as you're a podcaster, over time, I think, other people have mentioned this, and I think I've confirmed it, is that there are 3 basic evergreen topics that people want to talk about. They want to talk about health and fitness, right? So that's thriving. How are we thriving in the world? They want to talk about relationships. So how are we connecting with people in the world? And then they want to talk about money. So whether it's business or career or something around that, they want to talk about money. And so that's really about contributing to the world. How do we connect and make a contribution to the world? And so it is so interesting that by human nature, we do that. But then when it comes time to check in with ourselves to do self-care, we don't kind of make sure that we're running the radar all the way around. We go, well, how am I doing with my health? Bum, done, right? This year I'm going to check all the boxes. I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to do all these things, right? And I think it's important to have this sort of holistic, well-rounded concept about how we're doing in life.
Yeah, great idea. Might be something I might take on board. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So, how to find work with purpose?
Yeah. Wow. That is such a big question. Here's what's interesting to me. There's a study done about Americans in particular, and I don't imagine that Australians are that much different, that they found that on the average work day, so Monday through Friday, on the average work day, that Americans spend about 36% of their time either sleeping or involved in personal grooming, right? So they go to sleep, they get up in the morning, they start, take the shower, brush the hair and the teeth, and, get out the door. So 36% of the time, more than a third of the time. And then 37% of their time, they're spending at work or doing work-related activities, which means that, 2/3 of your waking hour, 2/3 of your hours in every day are spent either asleep, getting ready for work, going to work, doing work, or coming back home from work. And so people want to live a meaningful life. And if we want to live a meaningful life, we have to figure out how to bring purpose and meaning to that part of our lives. And so I think it's really important that we find work, either find work that has heart and meaning for us. So we join a company that is doing social good in the world. And I'd be happy to list some of those companies for you and some examples of how they do it. And it's important that if they can't join a company, then maybe they want to start a company that does
Yep.
social good. And there are lots of ways to do that today. It's, may you live in interesting times, right? Well,
Yeah, yeah,
we have all the tools in the world at our fingertips, and any one of us, I mean, you're sitting in Tasmania, I'm sitting in Minnesota, and we're having this conversation. You're reaching around the world. So we have these tools at our fingertips that we can make an impact anywhere in the world at any time.
yeah, I agree. And they're not, and people aren't necessarily taking advantage of that when they should be, because, I think since the pandemic's hit us, so I think as a global community, we've been forced to become a lot closer.
Yeah.
Because, through the internet, whatever, people have online meetings now rather than emails, and, it's more face-to-face internet connections rather
Right.
than, having to wait to fly to, across the world to
Right.
meet somebody. So I think
Right.
that's a great, and I would be interested to know about your companies that do, have this purpose about them.
Right. Yeah. I'll give you 4 examples if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So one of those is I just interviewed recently somebody named Sebastian Saju, and he is from Argentina. He has a company called ArcLight, ARQLITE. There's no U in there. It's
Yeah.
I don't know why. Who names
It's
companies
from
anymore?
Argentina.
Anyway, so ArcLight, what they do is they take unrecyclable plastics and they turn it into a gravel material that is highly sought after in the construction industry.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is, they call it smart gravel because it is lighter, obviously, takes less to ship it. It is better insulating both thermally and for sound. People who build these buildings, they get LEED certification credits for using this recycled material. And so there are all these things. And so he's taking all of this unrecyclable plastic, and the main thing he's working on is laminates, which is, if you take a chip bag, crisps, I don't know what you would call
whatever
them.
chips. Yeah.
And you'd take that bag. Well, that bag has multiple layers of different kinds of plastic, and it can't be recycled. And so what he does is he takes laminate material like that, he breaks it down, he reconstructs it, he puts it in this gravel, and he sells it. And the more of that he sells, then the bigger impact he has. So he makes a difference by what he sells, right? Another person I really like is Susan Elwer. So Susan was a preschool teacher, and she was an assistant in a preschool. And one of the other teachers came to her and said, "You see that little boy over there?" Said, "We've just gone through the first quarter of school. He has not eaten lunch one time."
Oh, wow.
And she's like, "Oh no, what's going on?" So they figure out he doesn't have lunch. He doesn't have lunch money. So, step number one was she went home and made him a sandwich, right?
Obviously. Yeah.
How do we feed this kid right now? But then she thought, well, how do I make this thing bigger? And she'd been carrying around this idea in her pocket for a while about starting an inspirational t-shirt company, right? So they have these inspirational slogans on it, and, it'd be a woman-run company, and they'd source these t-shirts in a way that was sustainable. And so she launched this company. They call it Spoonful Apparel. And so for every t-shirt they sell, they take half of their profits and they give it to programs that feed hungry kids. And so she makes a difference.
Yeah.
She makes a difference by what she shares, right? So Sebastian by what he sells, she makes a difference by what she shares. There's here in Minnesota, we have this grilled cheese sandwich shop. And first of all, you have my attention. You have my attention when you say grilled cheese sandwich shop. But Emily Hunt Turner is the founder of that. And what they do is they provide training and employment for people who are recently incarcerated. So as people come out of the prison system, they often have a hard time finding a job. They often have a hard time finding training. They often have a hard time finding housing. And they're really under pressure because if they don't find housing and training, they could be returned back to prison. So they help these people by training them in culinary skills. They have them work in the sandwich shop. They're now creating their own unique recipes and experimenting in the kitchen. It's really an amazing thing. And so she makes a difference by how she staffs, right? So she staffs with these people. And then the last one I'll use is Lee Wallace. And Lee Wallace, she was working for a nonprofit organization. They were trying to figure out ways to make a difference with some Latin American companies. And so they were, cooperatives, Latin American cooperatives. So they went down to visit these cooperatives and they say, how can we help? What can we do? And they said, well, we grow coffee beans. Could you buy our beans? And they're like, well, it's not really the business we're in. We're a nonprofit. And so we could help you to get better, fertilizers and things. And so a few weeks later, Lee is sitting up in her office up in Minnesota here. And the phone rings and she answers the phone and they said, this is the Port of Los Angeles. We have 38,000 pounds of coffee on the dock with your name on it. Where do you want it delivered?
Oh, God.
so the group got together and they went, I guess we're in the coffee business now. So they started a coffee company called Peace Coffee. And so last year they purchased 735,000 pounds of coffees from 12 countries and 20 smallholder farmer cooperatives. And in the process, they paid more than almost $1 million in these fair trade bonuses to these coffee farmers. And what's happening is those cooperatives are taking that money. And at first it was like, we need a well, we need a whatever. And now they're like going, okay, we've got a well, we've got roads now, we've got, all this stuff, we got electricity. And now they're going, well, we're educating our kids. We're making scholarships to send them on to college. They're like, now they're kind of in the second generation of this thing, and this is just growing like crazy. So they make a difference by how they source. So those are 4 different examples. So you can make an impact by what you sell, what you share, how you staff, or how you source. And every company, they sell, they source, they staff, they share. And so you can do this with any company as long as that is the heart and the mission of that company.
Yeah. I'm the president of a domestic and family violence awareness initiative. It's called Healing Through Love, and we offer free pamper days once a year to survivors, where they can come and get their hair done or their nails or their makeup or whatever, or get free clothing. And we're trying to get that on a national level, but we're finding it a bit difficult because we just can't find the connections. But we'll keep plodding along, and I'm sure it'll get there one day. But I think it's such a great initiative, and no one else is doing it. But it's just quite
so
difficult.
you're doing pamper days for these people from domestic violence. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there isn't a way to open a training program that would train them so that, that would be a graduation ceremony, that they gave other people the pamper day. That would be interesting.
Well, that would be interesting. Yeah, we hadn't thought of that. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Tony. So please tell me about your book.
Yeah. The book is called Crazy Good Advice, 10 Lessons Learned from 150 Leading Social Entrepreneurs. And a couple of things about the book. One is, as I mentioned, I have a podcast called Social Entrepreneur. And we let me try that again. We interview people. Let me try that one more time. Wow. Sorry, I'm having a brain fog moment.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I had one before, so
Hopefully we can edit this out. So yeah, we tell positive stories from underrepresented voices focused on solutions. So these are people, like I mentioned, everybody I talked about a while ago, they've been interviewed on the show. So these are positive stories. So you can look anywhere on the internet and you can find, outrageous things. From underrepresented voices, so often women, entrepreneurs, LGBTQ, people of color, so et cetera, et cetera. And then focused on solutions. So these are people who are taking the biggest problems in the world and they are taking them on and, making an impact.
Yeah.
So after the first 150 episodes, at the end of each one, probably like you do, I ask, your best piece of advice. What's something that people could, take on and take with them? And after the first 150 episodes, I recognized that there was a pattern. Like I kept hearing the same thing again and again, and you're probably seeing that in your own podcast. So what I did was I put these pieces of advice in a spreadsheet, and then in the next column over, I just simply said, what category or what bucket would that go in?
Yeah.
And then I sorted the spreadsheet, and it turns out that there were really only 10 things that they had said again and again and again. So I took all of that advice. I took my experience as a Fortune 500 executive. I took all, as a business leader, et cetera, and I put all that together. And then that's the book, Crazy Good Advice. And so we have 10 chapters. There's 10 different things that people can learn. The other thing was we wrote this as a giveaway in a crowdfunding campaign. I mean, it wasn't really meant to be a book that went on Amazon. We just said, we need something special to give away. So we wrote the book, and it's really amazingly illustrated. My wife did the illustrations, and it's very fun and funky, and there's lots of cool drawings in it and stuff. It's a light read, but after the crowdfunding campaign, it was sort of, like, what do you do with a book? Now you have one. So we said, well, let's just put it on Amazon, and it hit #1 bestseller.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, it was not what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
But that, of course, opened up other things, speaking opportunities, et cetera. So it's been a lot of fun, but I love this little book. It's, 10 things that you could learn that would help people to make a dollar and a difference. How do you make money, but have money with a mission or meaning, right?
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about. It's the same thing that I coach people about. So fun little book.
Terrific. All right, Tony, thank you so much for your time today. I've learned a lot, and you've got quite a good spin on leadership and purpose, and I think it's quite enlightening.
Thank you, Rose.
All right, you have a great day.
Would you like